Hey, Ed, what are you doing?
E.T.
Oh, right. E.D.
E.T.
Yeah. E.T. You know what? Why don't we just do a show all about E.T., the extraterrestrial? I used to love how he used to make things float around. Can you do that, E.D.? Well, it's okay, but can he do anything bigger than a plant?
Ouch.
Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
And this is One-Eyed Willie Mitch Alec. How are you?
Doing good. We're not doing though the Goonies, but we are doing something.
I was trying to get into character, Ed, but that's a story for another time.
That is all right. And welcome to Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. Thanks for joining us. We're back from a 3-week midsummer hiatus, if you like, you can call it that. And we're back with another great movie topic from our youth. And firstly, though, if you are new to the channel, thanks for joining us. How can you find out more if you haven't already subscribed?
It's as easy as picking up some Reese's Pieces left on the ground by a little boy in the middle of the night. Just simply hit the button on the bottom of the screen, and you, dear reader or watcher, will be subscribed, and you will know the next time Ed and I decide to go on an excellent adventure.
That's right. And we are going to 1982 and to the classic movie E.T., the classic Steven Spielberg film that was a blockbuster of blockbusters. It was outgrossed Star Wars. It outgrossed pretty much everything up until Jurassic Park came along. It was huge. It was a phenomenon, and I have fond memories of this film, mainly because I took 2 girls to see it in 1982.
Look at you, you stud, you.
Susan Ensley and Kim Benning at the same time.
Sadly, the only girl I took to see it was my mom. And my mom loved this movie. She saw it 4 times. She couldn't get enough of E.T. And she took my aunt to see it, her sister. And my mother's like crying in it. She goes, "Isn't this so sad?" And my aunt looked at her like she was crazy. She's like, "What, the little turtle thing? What are you getting so upset about? It's just a puppet." My mom loved E.T. She couldn't stop talking about it. She saw it more than I did, which is weird.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah. I think it was one of those films that was a little bit like Star Wars, where everyone went to go see it.
Oh, everybody saw E.T. Yeah.
It was everywhere. And we'll talk about merchandise, but I think it caught the merchandisers unawares a little bit because there wasn't really a lot out there when it originally came out. And this was in Steven Spielberg's golden period. He had just done Raiders of the Lost Ark. John Williams was hot off Raiders of the Lost Ark as well. He had been looking at doing a film sort of after Close Encounters called Night
Boys
Skies.
Life.
Oh yeah, there was a Boys Life, but prior to that there was Night Skies, which was written by John Sayles. And it was sort of like this family in a farm who are terrorized by aliens. And he sort of decided to go, let's not go down that route. Let's look at a friendly alien, an alien who's not out there to destroy us, an alien who's a botanist. And it was also, I suppose, a little bit allegorical of his life, growing up as a child, divorced. In a divorced family. So it had those 2 elements to it.
It did.
Sorry, I thought you were going to come in with some nugget of.
No, I'm listening. I'm on the edge of my seat going.
That's good.
I think
Don't fall off.
All I remember about E.T. was I thought, because we had no internet, it was all Starlog magazine and Fantastic Films, and whatever you could hear on the thing. There was a lot of secrecy around this film because there was no reveal of what the alien ET was going to look like, and the marketing of it was just the letters and the finger, the glowing finger and such.
Yes.
And that actually reminded me of War of the Worlds, the George Powell classic film, where you saw that hand come out
Yes,
with the finger in the brownish color, and it looked. So I thought, because we had already had Alien, the big not James Cameron, the Ridley Scott movie, and then this, and I thought Spielberg was kind of making a sequel to Close Encounters, and I honestly thought it was just like part 2, and it was going to be about an alien invasion because it looked creepy. It didn't look like a warm and friendly Disney picture. It looked like a scary alien invasion type of movie, and that's what I thought was going to happen. So when I sat there and watched it when it opened, I think it was June
82. Yeah.
It was not what I expected. It was a fantastic movie, but it was nothing that I thought Spielberg was going to do. I was expecting a spectacle, a war invasion type of thing, but
well, I think again, it caught everyone unawares. It was not a big budget film. It was $10.5 million. It was at that time was not a small budget, but it wasn't a big
it was
budget.
half of the Raiders budget.
Yeah. And I think Return of the Jedi was I think that was 32 million. Just like the year later. So it was a small budget. It was quite an intimate film, not a lot of actors or characters in it. Sort of set in, not multiple locations per se. So it was quite an intimate portrait of a divorced family. And I think the thing is it connected with a lot of people. And one thing that helped was, that amazing cast. Henry Thomas, who was reading how he nailed his audition because he was thinking about his dog that had died. So when he was doing that scene with the audition scene with E.T. dying, he nailed it. And we watched the 4K version of it last night again, and he's a great actor. All the actors are so genuine, and I think the thing is that they believe that E.T. is real. One of the things that's interesting is that Spielberg, filmed it as chronologically as he could, so that the young actors could experience the story of E.T. and his journey. And the other thing, if you notice, that a lot of the film is filmed from the point of view of a child, so low camera angles and things like that, which is really interesting. But I just remember, I was 12 when it came out, so I was probably just a little bit older than Henry Thomas, I think, when he was filming it. But I just connected with it because I thought that could be me. And what child didn't want to find an alien and have an alien as a friend?
Yeah. Well, I've got you. So anyway,
I'm Australian, not just alien.
Oh, I thought you said alien. I didn't.
Okay, yeah,
Australian. No, like I said, it was a funny movie because I remember laughing out loud.
Yep.
And Spielberg was this to me. Like I still enjoy 1941. We got to talk about that movie someday. Because I know it was a financial bomb, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But to me, it was 1941, Raiders of the Lost Ark, now E.T. And then the year prior, we said Raiders, but that summer was also the summer of The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek II, Blade Runner was out.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was The Road Warrior here.
The Thing.
Yeah, so there was a lot going on at the theaters. I mean, every other week there was something else, but boy, when E.T. came out, it just grabbed a hold of the summer box office. It didn't go anywhere for months. That thing was playing till Christmas. I mean, from June to next, spring, E.T. was constantly playing, selling out. Crowds kept going. It wasn't, like you said, it wasn't a spectacle. It wasn't Star Wars. It wasn't a big special effects movie. It's a very quiet film, but boy, oh boy, did it grab a hold of this country. And I remember when you went to see the movie, they gave you this little button, and I still have it, though I was distracted this week. I thought I knew where it was, but it wasn't. It was a simple little black button, and in purple letters, it said, "I saw E.T." and I wore it on my jacket, and my mom had one too because she was so proud of that movie. And I remember the character of Jim, Reverend Jim Ignatowski on Taxi, played by Christopher Lloyd, who would go on to be the Back to the Future Doc Brown. He would wear that same pin that said "I saw E.T." And every time I see it, I think of Reverend Jim. But that was the only way people knew that that was, like I said, there's no internet, and and you would wear that, and there wasn't any merchandise. So there really wasn't a way to tell somebody that you were in this little clique, this little secret club that saw this ET movie. And the whole movie was an odd origin story as well, because, and it's got an Indiana Jones connection to it, because Harrison Ford's future wife, but then girlfriend, Melissa Matheson, who had written The Black Stallion, which was a big, youth-oriented.
Yep, that was a Dino De Laurentiis, I think, wasn't it? Yep.
Yeah. So she had success with that. And if I recall, they were sitting on the set of Raiders, maybe, or she met Spielberg through Harrison Ford, and he was talking about the story he had, and then she came aboard and just fleshed it out and did the finishing touches on the screenplay, and that's how it came about. So it's really like a family production, and isn't it a Franklin Marshall?
Yes, well, well, Kathleen Kennedy was producing it with Steven Spielberg,
and Frank Marshall.
We had again that amazing cast. We had Drew Barrymore as Gertie. Sorry,
what's the brother's name? Isn't it James Naughton or
Robert McNaughton?
Wallace.
Yes, as the mother, and really, and Peter Coyote as
Peter Coyote.
And one thing when we were watching it last night, it jogs your memory. We haven't seen it in a few years, but how the grown-ups the adults at the start are, in shadow a lot. You don't see their face until the very end. The only adult you see is the mum.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting from a film point of view, the way that the choices, there's a lot of shadows in Steven Spielberg films, when you think about Indiana Jones, and they don't get, they don't get revealed until a certain point. So Peter Coyote playing the just Keys, because of his keys.
I was gonna say, I remember reading the novelization, and if it was done in the 80s and 70s, I'm gonna say Alan Dean Foster.
William Kotzwinkle.
Oh, no, wait. Okay, I got a story about William Kotzwinkle. All right. So it was Kotzwinkle. Now, his character, Keys, played by Peter Coyote in the film, it's much more developed in the novelization, because I remember reading this whole subplot about the character of Keys, and he was kind of more of scientific, more of a, I'm not going to say a mean character, but it was very no nonsense type of thing.
Yes.
So that doesn't come across in the film at all. In the film, he's just another guy in the background who you actually see his face. But in the book, he was looking for E.T. to prove, obviously, their alien life and all this. And he was no nonsense. He was, not a jokey character, kind of the villain, if you want to say so. I mean,
I suppose they need to have a villain, and you find out really that he's not, he's not the typical bad guy. I want to dissect this alien in the end, and I think that's a refreshing thing. I think the whole thing is refreshing, because up to that point, again, aliens were always, out to get you. So that was kind of and
nice. You know what?
Yeah.
This does come out the same year as The Thing.
Yep.
Which was totally a different alien type of story. And I remember seeing that in the movie theaters. That was rated R. And that was just over the top, that's John Carpenter's The Thing with Kurt Russell. And we're talking about so far from the opposite side of E.T. Here's this peaceful, loving creature. And then there's this other shape-shifting, disgusting, head exploding type of thing going on at the same time. So yeah, you really had a contrast of alien story. And like you said, this was really a Walt Disney-like movie, even though Disney didn't make it, but it was one of those things that harkens back to like that innocent old yeller and stuff. And I got to ask you, I know Spielberg has always like worked with Universal because he was like being mentored by, I can't think of the fellow's name, the big producer that did Jaws with Spielberg. And
yes, I can't think of his name either.
Did he try to get other studios like Disney to make this film? Was he turned down? Or anything?
I haven't read anything about that. He was at that point, he was pretty hot to trot, so he could go anywhere, and people would make a film with him. So he chose, obviously chose Universal, and out of that came, Amblin Entertainment as well, with the ET flying logo. So I think he could go anywhere, really.
No, and you said the score was good, the movie was good. It didn't take long to film. What was it, done like in 60 days? It wasn't like a massive.
No, it was pretty quick. It was out because they filmed it in I think they were filming it in September of 1981.
Yeah,
after
and Raiders.
Right after Raiders. It came out in June. And it was playing, as you said, for like it was playing for a year. It was like one of the longest, and it was consistently, I think it had 16 weeks.
Oh, it was at number one at the box office.
Yeah.
Oh, for weeks on end. It wasn't just lingering. It was the box office king that summer.
And by December, it had outgrossed Star Wars. And when you think Star Wars was 5 years earlier. So
and I remember that. I remember the ads in Variety, the newspaper, because Star Wars dethroned Jaws, and now it was a friendly rivalry. Now E.T. took over from Star Wars, so you had Lucas and Spielberg battling it out for the top movies.
Yes.
Raiders lost. I mean, it just went back and forth between the two of them like a tennis match. Like, oh, you're number one this year, and next year I'll have Empire Strikes Back, then I'll have Raiders, then I'll have E.T., then you'll have Jedi, and we just kept going back and forth, and forth. So, that was kind of fun to watch. It wasn't like they were vicious towards each other, but
no, it was just a friendly
rivalry,
like us. So basically, it was a huge commercial and critical success. The critics loved it. It was nominated for 9 Academy Awards. It won 4. The main of visual effects. The main one really is the score, the amazing John Williams score. And one thing, December, they think there was a mad scramble for toys. What do we do? This huge film. What do we do? So LJN came along.
They did wrestling figures here in America.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what probably they're best known for. I mean, and that was a huge success. But E.T., not so much. They brought out a lot of these little like
PVC,
PVC
those little
figures.
hard plastic things.
It's funny because this one is him drunk. You sort of think they had him, dressed up as when Gertie dresses him up and a few things like that. Yeah. They brought out the other thing they brought out, because some of these are modern ones. They brought out a lot of the plush.
The plushies. So
this is an actual.
Well, there was a big controversy here in the States because they didn't have any merchandise. There was a big, FBI was raiding a lot of people making bootleg ET toys because a lot of kids wanted one. Yeah. But they were getting these really cheaply made stuffed animals or stuffed dolls. And I remember the guy being on and showing the head would come off. There's a wire sticking out of it.
So here we go. This is a bootleg.
Yeah.
That's a bootleg ET. I've got this one as well. The little, clip on is a bootleg. They had lots of those.
There was a lot of bootleg ET merchandise. Yeah.
Yes. The other things that I've kept from my youth is, the key rings were pretty popular. Badges as well. We just got this one not too long. This is from Pizza Hut.
Oh, there was glasses?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that, because that was like the staple. You were the big movie if you had a Burger King glass, like Star Wars and Empire and all that stuff,
That's right. And we
had
had
ET.
No, we had the novelization, and then a few years later they brought William Kotzwinkle brought out a sequel.
Yeah. Now here's the story of William Kotzwinkle.
Okay.
My grandmother had a cottage over by the river nearby. So I went up there, I'd go spend the summer there, and the next door neighbor had a relative over the house. I said, oh, okay. And his name was William Kotzwinkle. And I go, I know you because I read the E.T. book. And he said, well, I'm doing the sequel called E.T. and the Garden Planet or something like that.
The Book of the Green Planet.
The Book of the Green Planet, right? And this is an official licensed Spielberg, Universal, Amblin approved sequel. Yes. And it takes place with E.T. on board the ship going back home to their home planet. And there's all this adventures and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, wow. And I thought there was going to be a sequel to E.T. And this was the book. This was going to be based on. But then you find out Spielberg saying he would never wanted to do a sequel to it.
Yeah.
It's a standalone movie. I think they caved in and let them write this book because the fans want to know what happened next. What happened to E.T.? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? And that's all they got, really. But I met Mr. Kotzwinkle. I have mine adaptation around here, and he signed it.
Cool.
So I do have that. That's why when we were talking tonight, I couldn't remember if I had any merchandise. Besides the pin, I think I just have the original novelization, and the sequel. And that's it. I don't remember calendars. I don't remember. I'm sure they had them. I don't remember. It was nowhere near Star Wars merchandise because at the time was the king of toys.
Well, that all came out later. They had a lot of wind-up toys. So they had wind-up ET. They had the wind-up spaceship. I've got this is my wife's t-shirt that I'm wearing at the moment. They had the board game that you can see over there in the background, which was great, where you had a little ET figure and had to build parts of his spaceship and a 3D spaceship as well.
I'll tell you one thing that everybody was eating that summer was the new candy called Reese's Pieces, which were peanut butter, chocolate coated peanut butter little things like M&Ms.
Yes.
Before that, they were around, but they weren't really popular. It was like, it was just another, because M&M was the big king of the toy candies. That's little chocolate ones. The story is that they approached them and asked if they would have their candy or their product put in the movie, and the Hershey company turned them down, turned Spielberg down. So then they went over to Reese's and did Reese's Pieces, and that the sales, I mean, everybody was eating Reese's Pieces. I mean, it was like E.T.'s candy. I think they even came out with a wrapper, and on the wrapper it said like E.T.'s favorite candy or something like that. And kids were buying them, hoping that if they put them in the backyard, maybe they'd find an alien the next day or something.
Yeah,
but that was a big plus. And then the other thing was the whole E.T. phone home. That phrase was everywhere. E.T. phone home, E.T. phone home. I think the phone company used it here as a commercial. I'm trying to remember the video game. We talk about products.
We'll talk about that. Well,
I was going to say that's the only thing that I remember was huge. I mean, they promoted that everywhere that fall. Like this Christmas, bring E.T. home.
Yes.
E.T. Speaking of that, when did they do the VHS release? Because I remember that was another big deal, and it might have been a Christmas release. The fact that the biggest movie of all time was going to be available to own was everybody. I still have my copy. Everybody bought a copy of it. Sears, every store had pre-orders for it. I think that was one of the hugest home releases of all time, and it also they had to actually have the videotapes had a special green a piece of plastic on it. It was made a little bit green to help with copying and copy. And they also had macrovision on that, I think, for maybe not the first time, but which was like a copy protection because they wanted to stop the bootleg videotapes going out. But that was a huge release. Before we get to the video game, in 2002 for the 20th anniversary, they re-released in 92 as well, but in 2002 they released it back in cinemas, and Steven Spielberg did a special edition of it where they added a scene in the bathtub, and I actually quite like it, but you can't get it anymore. It's not on the 4K, it's not on the Blu-ray. What's that?
Where so they digitally they added a scene, they digitally altered E.T.'s face so it was a little bit more expressive in certain scenes. And they also removed all the guns.
That I know. That
I think that they didn't need to.
Because that was George Lucas had just gone and redid the Star Wars special editions, and he tweaked it by adding Jabba the Hutt and cleaned up some of the effects. And once they found out they can go back and edit, because now it's digitally transferred, Spielberg did that with the guns, and that honestly ruins the movie because there's this tense moment when the kids are coming towards the police. There's a roadblock, and they're like, oh, they're not going to stop, and they got ET, and then you see a close-up of a shotgun being pumped back. I mean, this is like, oh my God, are they going to shoot a kid? They're going to kill these kids? What is going on here? It's like really, really tense. And then ET does the ooh, I could fly, and they all go up, and that's great special effect. But when you change it to a bunch of walkie-talkies,
Yeah.
and it's not the same tension in the scene, if you
Yes.
will. It's like, okay, what's he gonna do? Throw the batteries at the guy? I mean, like, cut it out.
Yeah.
Okay. He said, cut it out, guys. We better
Yeah, I
stop.
know. That was the
So,
only thing. The actual change to the face, just to add a little bit more. I've got to say though, watching again, the 4K is the original version of it. The creature designed by Carlo Rambaldi, who of course did the Aliens and
Alien.
Close Encounters. He also
Yeah.
did King Kong. Don't forget to check out our King Kong episode, 1976. But he's still
Oh, yeah.
amazing. And they used a combination of short-statured actors, mimes who were using the hands. They also had animatronics and everything like that. But that was really good. And they inserted a scene in the bath, a bathtub scene with ET in the bath, which was really good. They didn't include though the scene with Harrison Ford as the principal, because that was removed because it was too obvious that it was Harrison Ford, which is quite interesting.
I read the scene in the book.
Yeah.
And I remember they bring him in, and he's the principal, and he's talking to Elliot, and he says, "Oh, are you on drugs? Is it this? Is it that? Is it pills? Is it pot? Is it the Quaaludes or something like that?" And in the book, he opens his desk drawer, and he has all this confiscated pills and drugs that he's taken off of students.
Yeah.
And as that's happening, ET's home drunk, watching movies and stuff because he discovered beer.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if the chair floated up or something happened with Elliot. The mom comes and gets him, but the Harrison Ford principal character for a brief moment sees like Elliot levitating or something happens, which makes him question like what's going on. And then Elliot leaves. And in the book, again, it's been like 40 years. I do remember the guy just reached in and took a handful of the drugs and threw him down his mouth and washed him down. So I don't know.
Probably just
not
as
that our
well.
boy Harrison Ford couldn't pull off a scene where he's under the influence of some type of narcotic.
Yep. But
anyway, that scene's not in there. It was filmed though.
Yes, and it's from the back again,
and you can see Harrison Ford's hand.
Yeah, but it's Harrison
Elliot.
Ford. It's
Harrison. Grabs him by the shoulder. He didn't do one of these though. If you saw that finger, you would have known.
That's right.
But
so
you know why I was mad about that? Because if they had left it in there, Harrison Ford would have been the star or in the top 5 or 6 movies of all time at that moment in history, because he had Star Wars, Empire, Raiders, and then it would have been E.T.
Temple
and then Jedi. He would have been like the top 5.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cool thing,
Yeah.
But
was the Frisco Kid in there somewhere? I think.
No, I don't think that, or Hanover Street. They didn't make the cut. No.
Oh well. So back to 1982. They thought we need to have video games were hot. Atari was hot. They needed a video. They thought, let's create a video game. So they approached Howard Scott Warshaw, who actually has been a guest on the IndieCast a number of years ago, and he created Yar's Revenge and also Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was a fun, blocky, but Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark style game.
Yeah, weird graphics.
But that's as I say to my DT kids, back then it was all about gameplay, and we used that.
It was a creative way to move those little bits across the screen.
That's right. So Howard Warshaw basically came up with the game E.T. in 5 weeks. It's the fastest time anyone has ever come up with a game. And it actually, again, there's a little bit of urban myth with a few things, but it actually was a success. It sold 1.5 million copies, which was huge. Okay.
Yeah.
However, they shipped about 3 or 4 million copies of it.
It's too much. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just didn't do that.
It was the greed of the retailers. They were like, oh, we're going to make so much money on this thing. But you're like, once you get the audience and the kids played the game, and the problem with a game like E.T. and Raiders and Adventure, once you solve the mystery, you really don't have replay on that. You just go, yeah, okay. I mean, I could do it faster maybe, but I mean, once you solve the little hero's journey, you don't really go back. There's no, what are you going to do? Up your skill level? You're not really.
Yeah, it did suffer. I mean, that same year came, Pitfall was out. It was a River Raid, I think. Oh, maybe
River Raid. Yeah, those are
you know,
Activision games.
were out, and they were sort of the hot titles at the time. So ET just didn't cut it.
I thought Mattel in television did a version of an ET game that was different from the Atari one.
I think
with better graphics. I don't know. I did, for some reason I remember there was another ET game a little later on that looked better.
They did Tron and Tron Deadly Discs, but they didn't do, I'm 99% sure. But I will say, obviously, then came the urban myth that there's a landfill somewhere in.
No, that's true.
I know. That it was filled with Atari cartridges that they couldn't sell. Well, someone in 2009 or something, they went to look, and they did find some. But it wasn't just ET cartridges.
No, it was a lot of Atari games.
Yeah, because there was a big crash of 1983 where
ET was like on the cusp of it.
Yes.
I mean, there was other factors. It wasn't ET destroying the home market for video games. There was a lot of factors going on too.
Yeah,
the bubble burst. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and so that was really it for merchandise. When it came out again in 2002 for the 20th anniversary, they released some new plush toys. They released a bunch of figures that would basically this my batteries are flat on this, but he's got a little light up
lights
finger.
up. Yeah,
he would interact. They brought out a lot of figures and things like that, which was really cool. You could get hang on, my good old light up finger prop.
Yeah, your light up finger. That at least is attached to the hand. I have seen one where it's just the finger.
Yes, it looks a little bit like
it looks a little suggestive, like a marital aid or some kind of adult toy. We'll just leave it that way. I'm like, what is that?
I don't know what you're talking about. So, so they did bring out some merchandise. And you can get at Pop Culture, I did see near us, they've got a life-size ET. I didn't buy it because it cost like $400. But if you really love ET, I'm sure you've probably already got it. But you can get some good. The good thing is with a lot of the ET merchandise, it's not super expensive.
No.
And certainly the video game is certainly worth collecting, just at least to have on your shelf, I would say.
There was a sequel of sorts, because then they opened the Universal Studios ride, which Spielberg directed. Yeah, and that's basically you reenact the whole chase scene of the movie, and you get to be on the bike and ride in front of the moon. And then the funnier thing is, I remember it was the earlier voice modulated stuff. So when you went into the ride, you would say what your name was. So I'd say, oh, it's Mitch, and there's Ed. So at the end, they'd have this little voice simulator of ET. And when you got off the ride, it's like, thanks, Mitch, or thanks, Ed, or whatever it was. And it was the ET sound, like, I'll be right here, So
I never could make out my name when they said that. But that ride is one of my favorite rides, just for that opening, when you're walking through the queue where it's like the forest at night.
Yep.
You can't help but feel excited when you're doing that. And when we're in where was it? Maybe Singapore.
Florida has it.
It's in Singapore at it wasn't a Madame Tussauds, but it was a one of those waxworks where we got to sit on the bike with ET, which was pretty cool. And there was even another pseudo sequel in 2019 where there was a commercial done with Henry Thomas as a grown-up with a married family, and they brought ET back, and
he comes to visit him.
Consulted on that, and that was kind of fun. It was like a 4-minute was it a Super Bowl commercial or something like that?
Yeah, it was a Super Bowl ad last year. Yep.
Which was pretty cool too. So ET is everywhere. It's consistently on the top 10 or whatever greatest films of all time. We
forgot his other big screen appearance.
Oh, the Phantom Menace.
The Phantom Menace. That's right.
Yeah.
ET did come back. I mean, well, we don't know if it was ET, but it was people from his species
Yes.
in the big Senate scene in the Phantom Menace when they go to vote the chancellor out, and they're like, vote now, and they pan all the different delegates from around the galaxy. If you look in the lower corner, you'll see 3 of ET's race on the side, or alien species, screaming for stuff. So,
and it makes perfect sense then when ET dressed in his Halloween
he sees Yoda.
sees Yoda, he knows.
He says home, home. Yeah, because he knows them. They're buds. They hang out. They go drinking.
But mind you, you know, he knows people because people look like, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi and all that.
You know, he actually they have their own YouTube show, E.T. and Yoda's Excellent Adventure. It's a whole other thing. It's on YouTube.
Don't subscribe to that one.
No, subscribe to our show.
That's right.
I was going to say, what other ET stories are there as far as merchandise? The game, the shirts, toys. It's about it, really. I mean, I don't really.
Well, we should talk about 2 other things. Obviously there's the amazing John Williams score.
Oh yeah.
But Michael Jackson loved this film.
Okay.
And he released an album or a record with him narrating the story of ET. It came with a book. And he also wrote that. Yeah, and he also wrote a song, but they couldn't release it. The song actually won a Grammy.
Really?
But the actual recording won a Grammy, but they couldn't release it on his because of, you know, with Thriller coming out and all these things.
Really?
Anyway, so he loved it. In fact, he owned one of the life-size animatronics of ET. So that came out. And also at the same time, Neil Diamond, who I love, was so taken by the story. He and I think it was Carol Bayer Sager wrote
Turn On Your Heart Light.
Yeah, which was based on this without saying it. I think there was a lawsuit involved.
I think there was. Turn on your heart light.
But that was like top 5. That got to number 5 in the US charts in 1982. Huge hit for Neil Diamond. So there was lots of, you know, spin-offs, and who can forget Extro? Do you remember that low budget horror movie, Extro? Not all aliens are friendly, I think was the tag.
Well, there was a lot of ET ripoffs after the movie success, and I remember one called like Mac and Me, which was like another young boy befriends an alien and they go on some wacky adventures, but
it was a McDonald's commercial. It was basically a McDonald's commercial.
It was pretty bad. I think it was sponsored by McDonald's.
Yes.
Hence the name Mac and Me.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a good movie. It wasn't a good movie.
No.
What was I going to tell you more about ET? You just had me thinking about
You're saying he lives in Connecticut?
Oh, no. Progressive Insurance, the car insurance company here, they did some type of partnership with Universal. And all around schools, there would be a black silhouette of ET, but it was to wear your safety belt. Here in the States, they wanted kids to buckle up so they didn't get in a car accident. So it would say, buckle up. And it would be a sign, a yellow sign, and then the black ink of it would be ET wearing his safety belt in the car, his car belt, and his finger would be up and it would be glowing. And that sign is still around because I live near a school, and as I walk my dog, I go by it every day. And I wonder if all the kids in the last 35 years, how it's maybe forgotten about, if they even know what the hell that's supposed to be. And it must be still successful because they just reissued it. There's a newer graphic of ET wearing the safety belt on some of the side roads around here because I saw it. But it's very odd that after all these years, ET is still the spokesperson for car safety and school safety. But
if anything, he should be condoning wearing helmets when riding a bike. I would have thought. But
you know, why didn't Spielberg go back and add helmets on the kids?
Yeah.
Forget the guns, you know? And I got to say this one thing about ET. Sure. I know you think it's a perfect film and everybody loves it.
Yeah, okay.
No. Here's my problem. If he can make those bikes fly, why in the hell didn't he do it sooner? That's all I'm gonna say, because I mean there was no need for, I know, dramatic tension, and those poor kids had to pedal their feet off and trying to get away. But if all he had to do was go, din, 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 din. I mean, come on, man, really?
There goes our copyright claim with that musical interlude. Thank you, Mitch.
No, that was just me. Like
I know.
I had a sinus thing.
No, you know what? But it's always a way, like Pacific Rim. Why do they just use those missiles right at the end, or the giant sword when they could have used it to start with? It's movies.
I don't know.
That's
it's
right.
just, it's not real.
That's
It's
okay. It is.
Anyway. That's E.T.
That is it.
Would you like to see a sequel, Ed?
No. I think some films you don't need a sequel to.
Like Star Wars. Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, Mitch, how can people find out about our show? You know what? Actually, an interesting thing is that
Tell me.
Is that a lot of our viewers haven't subscribed.
You want me to take them out, Ed?
No. I just want you to educate them. All right,
All right. Well, listen here, you young punks. If you want Ed and I to keep going on excellent adventures, you got to let us know that you want us to do that, because we got better things to do. I'm talking to you 2,400 people who watched Land of the Lost. If you had subscribed, we would be making millions of dollars on YouTube money. I'm talking to you, people that watch Superman the movie. I'm talking to you who watched King Kong 76 or the $6 Million Man. We're not doing this because we like talking to each other. I actually can't stand each other. Okay. We're doing this not for us, but for you. Help us help you. And you could do that by subscribing to Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. It's as easy as phoning home, which you should do because your mother hasn't heard from you in a long time and you know it. Just subscribe and we'll call you like E.T. called home.
That's right.
Next time we go on an excellent adventure. That's it. I don't want to get into it, but I am a little upset by these freeloaders who watch our entertainment and can't even subscribe.
There you go. Only
that's all I got to say.
Only if you want to, of course. No pressure.
No pressure.
That's it. Mitch, all I've got to say to you is be good.
Ouch.
And we'll see you next time on another Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. See you next time.
Big glowing finger. Oh. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. You should have done that.
I should have.
Oh my God. That's what happened to me.
Oh.
Leave that in. Leave that in.
Where's your optometrist? Quick, I need a call.
I got 2 lawsuits going, Ed.
See you next time.
Oh.